Hi, I'm Jeff Sanford. We're here at the Canadian Business Leadership Forum 2008, and I'm here with the co-CEO of Research in Motion, Jim Balsillie. You had some really interesting things to say about China, and you mentioned that you've been there 3 times in the last year.
I will have been there 3 times past year. Yeah, once I go next week. Yeah.
What do you see when you go there?
You have to be awed by the scale of it all.
Yeah.
It's just of a scale that's hard to fathom until you see it. It's just, you know, that aspirational scale is something to see.
Right. Do you think Canadians or Westerners are underestimating the impact of China?
I don't know. I don't know if they're underestimating. I think there's a lot of perceptions at hand. Some overestimate it, some underestimate it. Some view it as an opportunity. Some view it as a threat. Some just aren't interested, and so I think. But it's a reality. It's an important reality, and every evidence I've seen from China, it's a constructive reality, and engaging it thoughtfully is incredibly important, and in Canada, particularly important. It's particularly important to Canada that we engage constructively.
Sure. How does Canada need to engage? Our level of engagement, as I understand it, isn't very much right now. How do we need to engage China?
Well, I think in a broad set of ways, and I think you know, CG is doing that with the CG conference on China in the world, where a couple hundred experts around the world, and it's being opened by a Politburo member from China. I think you know, just understanding, you know, evolving institutions and how China could be involved, like this L20 stuff that's come out in the paper today, or the G20 as they might be calling it, and I think cultural and trade and capacity building and investment policies and cultural stuff and business relations and political relations and institutional think tank relations. Yeah. I think it's a comprehensive set of things that are good for us and is part of wanting to aspire and connect in the world with them and the rest of the world.
Absolutely. How does RIM go about operating in China? I wonder if you have some business tips, I guess, about dealing in China. How do you find the environment? I mean, I understand they're great capitalists, but yet it's a communist country.
Well, I mean, it's more corporate state-ish than communist, because I mean, they're private, a lot of private enterprise, but there's a lot of state involvement, and we work with carriers that are owned by the state, or
sure,
majority owned by the state, so it's a fusing of public and private. So I think the lines are pretty blurred there, and being a good citizen in all respects of the word is really important, and yeah, so I think that's important for us. And but you know, they need more productivity of their people and their businesses, and in that, and so we offer productivity. So I think we're good for them in their domestic innovation agendas and that. So yeah, I think you think about it comprehensively and holistically would be sure, my and enjoy it and make it a passionate interest. Don't just, you know, if you do it sort of opportunistically, transactionally, I don't think that'll work.
Interesting. Now, your CG conference this weekend, you're going to be dealing with a lot of these issues.
Yes.
And, you know, one of the things you'll touch on is the G8's a little outmoded these days, isn't it? We've got to move towards the G20.
Yeah.
I wonder if you have any thoughts
well,
on
that's
that.
a big thing. It's, you know, I mean, you know, I mentioned in my comments that, you know, in purchasing power parity, you know, I think it's Japan, China, and India are 2, 3, and 4 in the world. Yeah. So, you know, and you know, I don't know how you can solve these kinds of global issues, whether, you know, and China's by far the largest holder of US dollars, so I just don't know how you can solve these economic, financial issues without having those people at the table, and the G8 doesn't have them at the, does have Japan, doesn't have India and China at the table, so I think, you know, and how do you create a structure that's inclusive but not unwieldy, and I think that's, you know, the sort of, you know, leader and framework reform that's maybe starting to show is happening now, and that's very exciting.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
Pleasure's all mine.
I'm Jeff Sanford, reporting from the Canadian Business Leadership Forum 2008.